this is like fundamental vocabulary for writing task 1. Comprising, composed of, constituting, consisting of, made up of. So we're going to look at a quick sample table. Today we're actually going to work on combination graphs. We're going to look at a couple graphs that are combo of pie charts and tables. But just to look at this language, very quickly want to look at this table. So this chart, it's a fun thing to talk about on Saturday morning, but anyway, this chart shows the number of murders in various countries compared to gun ownership rates in 2015. So you've got these murder rates per 100,000 people. Now you've got a high of 90 in Honduras, down to a low of 0.6 in Switzerland. And then the second column shows guns per 100 people with a high of 90 in the United States and a low of 1.1 in South Korea. So let's just look at a couple sample sentences for this graph. So again, we're looking at vocabulary that you're going to use on a lot of writing task 1 descriptions. So comprised of, comprising are interchangeable. This is a grammatically unusual situation because you've got the passive participle and then you've got the active participle, but the way this word is used, it doesn't matter. So we can say the second group of countries, comprising USA, Switzerland, and Germany, has a high number of gun owners and low number of murders. So when we actually did this table, I can move it down this way. Okay. So we chop these up into a couple groups. If you look at the USA, you've got relatively low number of murders, high number of guns. Switzerland, very low number of murders, high number of guns. Germany, low murders, high guns. So the second group of countries, comprising the USA, Switzerland, and Germany, has a high number. What other word could you use here instead of comprising?
Consist of.
Consisting.
Yes, consisting of. What else would work here?
Including.
Be careful, those are kind of synonyms. What's the difference between comprising and including? That's a very good point. What's the difference between comprising and including?
You mean you are putting things together? Comprising, they are basically consist of different things.
Well, including means that there would be more items in that group and you're just selecting a few of them.
Yeah.
But in this case, this is all of them.
Okay.
Right? USA, Switzerland, and Germany are the only countries in this group. So the entire group only has these 3 countries. So including isn't a perfect synonym here. Okay, so comprising, if you're using comprising, you can also use comprised of. I'm just going to put spaces here so it all fits. Okay, comprising or comprised of?
Composed.
Composed of. Composed of would work too. What else?
Containing?
Not containing, no.
Okay.
Dina?
Made up of?
Made up of, yes. You ought to put that of there too. Comprising, comprised of, consisting of, composed of, made up of. Okay, so we've already done this one. we can look at it from the other point of view. Notice here, these words are coming before the items in the group. So you've got USA, Switzerland, and Germany over on this side of those words. But here, we've got USA, Switzerland, and Germany on this side as the subject, okay, which comprise the second group of countries, have a high number of gun owners and low number of murders. So it's exactly the same idea as in the previous sentence, but it's flipped around.
Last time we explained it as a bigger group, I mean, and the subgroup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yes, right. You could think of it as the title of the group and then the
Title,
parts.
yeah, and parts, yeah. So when we talk about the title, so it's the big two, the numbers of the group. So here we use it as active voice.
Well, notice here you've got ED.
ED here because we use it, maybe we'll use it as passive, comprised.
Yes. So you've got a mix here. So this is one of those situations where it's more of a vocabulary issue because you've got this one, which is ing, this one, which is ing, and then you've got three passive versions. Because you've got comprising and consisting of, and then you've got comprised of, composed of, made up of. So this is not the usual grammar situation where you've got a clear situation where one category is going to be active and the other one's going to be passive. You've got a mix here. Now let's look what happens at the other in the other situation where you're starting with the items in the category first. The USA, Switzerland, and Germany, which comprise the second group of countries, have a high number of gun owners and low number of murders. Is there anything we could use here instead of comprise?
Composed of?
Nope. No, because the items are first.
Okay.
This is like saying this this product is composed of part A, part B, part C.
Consist?
It's not going to work.
Made up?
Close.
Which include?
Make up. Well, include is not going to work because the USA, Switzerland, and Germany don't include a second group of countries. They are the second group of countries, right?
Can you say represent?
Yes, I don't love it, but okay. I'm not going to write it down, but yes, I think that's okay. Okay, so your choices are more limited if you do it like this.
Simple present.
Constitute?
Yes,
Which
that's a good one.
constitute?
Constitute.
Compose.
So which compose the second group? Just a sec. I'm going to put constituting up here. That works too. Sorry, Allah, what did you say?
Compose.
Compose. I wouldn't use it.
Okay.
And if you're familiar with participles, instead of which, comprise, right? Because it's which plus these, or if you don't want to use which, I'm going to put 2 forward slashes here. It would just be comprising. Remember, this is without which. Which comprise is the same as comprising. Which make up is the same as
Making up.
making up. Which constitute is the same as
Constituting.
That's it. So we are transforming a relative clause, which constitute, into a participial phrase. Okay. All right. Any questions about these words?
So every time you have to put comma before which, comprised of, or make up, or comprising, or constituting. Like we have to put comma before it, and then we will start the new sentence.
Kind of. Let me give a basic example that hopefully answers your question. You're talking about when you're supposed to use commas around which, right? So what do you call the construction starting with which?
It is referring to the sentence before it.
Relative clause?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so these are called relative clauses. And you've got what are called defining and non-defining. These are also called restrictive and non-restrictive in a lot of grammar texts. And all it means is this. You've got two. What's the relative clause in the first sentence?
Hasn't arrived. It still hasn't arrived.
No, that's part of the independent clause. What's the relative clause in the highlighted sentence?
We ordered.
That we ordered last week. That's the relative clause. In this case, you can use which or that. Notice there are no commas. What's the relative clause in the second sentence?
Which we ordered last week.
Yep. So these relative clauses are the same, other than the commas. So why are there commas in the second one, but not in the first one? Zubi.
Because the first one is explaining that first one is a simple like sentence, and it's explaining that it has not arrived. Whereas in this, we are putting the first thing before the last. I cannot explain this.
There's one significant difference between these two.
Mhm.
Who can explain what that is?
In fourth sentence, they have not said what part. So
Exactly.
it's the part. And in second, it's K505. So it's kind of, they're telling us that, yeah, it is the subject.
So this is not specific. We don't know which part it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need this information in the relative clause to understand which part you're talking about. When you read this out loud, you're not going to pause here. You're going to say the part which we ordered last week still hasn't arrived. You have to read this as the whole subject because otherwise your listener doesn't know what you're talking about. They don't know which part. So here's the general rule. If you delete the information in the relative clause, it's not clear what you're talking about. The part still hasn't arrived. Which part? Okay, the part that we ordered last week, the part which we ordered last week. Whereas in the second sentence, K505 is already specific. This business here is an extra detail. So if I say K505 still hasn't arrived, you know exactly what I'm talking about, even without that info. The relative clause is an extra detail. Okay.
Mr. Yan, I have a question.
Mhm.
The sentence at the bottom of the table up, like after the USA here, constituting the USA, Switzerland, and Germany has.
Okay, so what is your independent, you're talking about this sentence?
No, up at the bottom of the table. The constituting the USA, Switzerland, and Germany has.
Okay, excellent question. This is about subject-verb agreement. The second group of countries has a high number of gun owners and low number of murders. Why is this has and not have? Great question.
Because it's relative to the first sentence, the second group, not the groups.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And a very common mistake is to think that countries is the subject of the verb has, but it's not. In these long subjects, you have to look at the beginning of the subject to see whether it's singular or plural. In this case, group is the subject, not of countries. Group is. So group has.
Yeah, but
It,
down you put it half because of the USA.
ah, what's the difference with this one? Why does this one have Allah?
Because of the USA, Switzerland, and Germany.
Right, because it's 3 items and now it's plural.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at today's prompt if there are no questions about that. The table below shows the number of visitors to the Royal Ontario Museum in the years before and after it was renovated. The charts show the results of polls that asked visitors about their satisfaction with their visit in the same 2 time periods. So in this case, you've got a little bit of an extended description because they're telling you about the table first, and they're telling you about the 2 charts. So they want you to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. All right, so first you've got this little table. In the year before the renovation, this is the number of visitors. In the year after the renovation, the number of visitors. And then visitor satisfaction survey results the year before the renovation and the year after the renovation. Okay, so what are the big patterns here? What happened to the number of visitors, roughly speaking?
Increased.
They
Okay.
increased.
By about how much? Do quick and dirty math, okay? So these are not nice numbers, but what numbers could you turn these into to get something that's easier to calculate? What could we round this to?
3.
If you just round both of those numbers up, what do they turn into?
300 almost would be the difference.
That's right. So if we treat this for a second as if it were 1,200,000, and this one, so the difference is anyway, it's 300,000 visitors, right? But if you round the numbers a little bit, you get something that's much easier to calculate. So how much, by what percentage did the number of visitors increase? Who remembers the formula for calculating the percentage difference? So right now, 300,000 visitors is the absolute difference, right? And that's good if you indicate that there are 300,000 more visitors. But in most research, when you're comparing things, people are interested in the percentage difference. So if you can calculate that, it's a very good thing to include. So what was the formula for calculating the percentage difference? There's only 2 steps in the formula. What was the first step?
Right. Oh, sorry, minus.
Yeah, so find the difference.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sorry, I keep interrupting you. So hang on, first step, find the difference. So that's 1450 minus 1150 equals 300,000. And sorry, what was the second step?
Divide the difference with the first one.
Yeah, so difference divided by the first number in your comparison. So whether it's the bigger number or the smaller number depends on you.
Biggest one.
No, I think the smallest one.
Be careful. Dina, can you explain why you chose the smallest one?
Because we are comparing. This is the first number. We need to know the difference, so we have to compare it with the first one. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I know it's the smallest one.
Because your comparison is going in this direction, right?
Yes, in this direction, yeah.
In the year before the renovation to in the year after the renovation, we're not interested in going in the other direction. It wouldn't make sense to make that comparison. So we want to know how many more people showed up after the museum was renovated. So we have to find the difference from the first number. Like if something costs $100 initially, and then it goes up in price by $20 to $120, we're not interested in the difference between 20 and 120, but 20 and 100, right? So 20 is a fifth of 100, so it's gone up by 20%. So in this case, find the difference. 300K difference over the first number in the comparison, so it's going to be 300 over 1200. Right, I'm just chopping off a bunch of zeros. That equals
25%.
That's right. 3 over 12 is a quarter, right? 25% increase. Are there any questions about the math we just did?
This is for percentage difference.
That gives you the percentage difference. In your own words, can you just re-explain the steps we took to find that 25%? Pretend you had to explain this to a kid in grade 9.
First of all, we have to find the difference. For finding the difference, we have to minus the two numbers that we have, and then after that we will divide the difference. Then we get after making the difference with the first number. So in this way, we will get the difference between the percentages.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I think a lot of people make a mistake in the second part. They're not sure which number to divide it by. it's the first number in your comparison. It's almost always going to be the number related to the earlier year. So even if the numbers go down, then it's going to be, because you're comparing the earlier year to the later year. So you need to compare that difference to the first number, the earlier year. And so you take the difference over the first number, you get 300 over 1200, which is a quarter, which is 25%. Okay, now let's look at the charts themselves. What kind of comparisons could you make here?
Sorry, now we are talking about the pie chart.
Yes, the two pie charts.
We can compare that how like before renovation satisfy and after renovation how much they were satisfied.
Mhm.
So generally speaking, that like in very satisfied before renovation they were 15%, but after renovation it increased to 35%. So it's a huge difference among very satisfied thing.
Yeah, and can you think of any more general way of grouping that? Like, could you lump together satisfied and very satisfied, and then lump
Yeah.
together dissatisfied?
Dissatisfied and very satisfied. This is what I thought.
Yeah, just for the general overview. And this will also be a good way to introduce your body paragraphs.
Yeah, it will be like one body paragraph about this group and the second body paragraph. Yeah.
So what's the total number of satisfied visitors before the reno?
It is 45, just less than a half.
And after the reno?
It is 75%. Like 3 false.
It's a huge jump.
Hmm.
And then how many visitors or what percentage were dissatisfied before the reno?
Now 50%.
Yeah. And after?
Coming down to 20%.
Yeah. And Dina made that comparison. Let's do that again. Let's do that comparison again. So if you compare 45% to 75%, and if you subtract those, then what do you get? That's a 30 percentage point increase, which is okay. That's a starting point, but it doesn't tell us very much. It'd be more helpful to know what the increase in percentage would be. So Dina, how did you get that number? Let's just follow the formula, see what happens. So step
this
one.
Is now for satisfied group. Yeah, it is 45 minus 75
equals
30.
So that's our first step. Find the difference.
And then 30 we'll divide it on 45.
Yeah, so the first number, which represents the earlier time period, and so how would you reduce 30 over 45? Or what is that approximately? Like if you just round 45 to 50, then what do you end up with?
3 over 5.
Which is?
3 over 5, 1 over 5.
Or you know what, this
15%?
or 60%. 3 over 5 is 60%. But you know what, this is pretty easy math. So 30 over 45, how do we reduce that to the lowest common denominator? What number goes nicely into both 30 and 45? Okay, and if you divide both by 5, what's 30 divided by 5? $30 divided by 5.
6.
6. And 45 divided by
over 7.
45 divided by 5.
9.
9. So
9,
6/9 we can further reduce to,
by 3.
which equals
1 by 3.
2 to 3.
2 over 3, which is 67%. So it's a 67% increase in overall visitor satisfaction. I would use that phrase overall visitor satisfaction, and then you can break it down into very satisfied and just satisfied. Now let's do the same thing, but for the dissatisfied group of people. So what was the difference? Okay, good.
30.
Good. So step 1, 50 minus 20 equals 30. And that's the absolute number. And then do we want to divide 30 into 50 or 30 into 20?
50.
50. So 30 over 50. So let me just put percentage point. Mohammed, this is actually really important.
Okay.
If you just take the raw difference in percentages, like 50 minus 20, so it's 50, it's not actually 50, it's 50%, minus 20%, you get a 30% difference, but it's a 30 percentage point difference, sorry, not a 30% difference.
Tarian, why we divide second equation on the
Decreased
second
by
number?
60%.
Sorry?
No, sorry, it is the first equation 50 minus, yeah, 30. Then 30 divided on 50%, yes, first number.
Yeah. Right, and so
Decreased by 60%.
yeah, it's 60, so this is a,
60%.
right, 3 over 5 equals 60%
Mm-hmm.
decrease in overall visitor dissatisfaction. And I would use this phrase overall visitor dissatisfaction. Any questions about the math?
No.
Okay, so when you do the breakdown, what kind of meaningful comparisons can you make? So those are really good comparisons that are already there. Is there anything else that's noteworthy?
No response?
Sorry?
No response? We have not discussed the no response bullet, the gray one.
Right. Do you think would you consider that meaningful information in this chart?
Yes, because people are not responding. This is also a good indicator.
Well, that always happens on surveys.
Yeah.
Even if people love you or even if they hate you, many people will just, hang up when you call or delete your email asking for their satisfaction poll.
It will show the attitude of the people, isn't it? Can you, because it is a part of your chart, you cannot miss it.
Yep.
You
So
can
I would
see
just mention it in passing at the end, like the percentage of visitors giving no response remain the same.
Yes.
Right.
But we should mention it, isn't it?
Yes. But I would just mention it in passing because it's not a central part of the graph.
Yeah.
I mean, if a huge percentage of people didn't respond, then I think it would be meaningful to talk about it. But 5% and it doesn't change, don't spend time on it. Like one sentence is enough. But yes, you're right. You need to mention it.
Very satisfied we can make the comparison.
Yeah. Increased by over 100%.
Yes.
satisfied increased by 1/3. Dissatisfied dropped by over 50%. Very dissatisfied dropped by 2/3. What about our verb tenses? What tense are you going to write this whole thing in?
Present?
No,
No, past.
it has to be past because it says year
It's a
after
year.
renovation.
Yeah.
And then the year before the renovation, you might need to use past perfect. Whereas in the year before the renovation, more visitors had been dissatisfied. It would be, just to give you an example sentence, it would be something like, after the renovation, 15% of visitors were dissatisfied, whereas before the renovation, 35% had been dissatisfied. You use past perfect before other past information. All right, we got not too many people today. We can do a bit of writing together. In the chat, please write your introduction paragraph. So the introduction paragraph consists of 2 parts. The first part is the context. So you're paraphrasing the information in the prompt. Okay. It's always the same. Intro, part 1, paraphrase the prompt. And don't say below. Okay. And then the second part of the prompt is your general overview. Try and do it without reference to specific numbers. Mohammed, if you include specific numbers in the general overview, it's going to be too repetitive when you get into the body paragraphs. So you want to do the general overview, exactly what it sounds like, just very general description of what's going on without numbers if possible.
Okay.
All right, and I'll give you, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes to finish that and just do it in the chat. I will.
Please,
Can you scroll the thing up because I cannot see the. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay, and if you want to look at this, if you've got a bigger screen at home or a second monitor or whatever, I will share this with you. Okay, so I put the link to this document in the chat, and in the chat, put your writing. I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, Abby. A given graph compares the number of people. Good. Not went under refurbishment. You could say underwent, like undergo. We're undergoing we're undergoing a renovation. Last year we underwent a renovation.
Okay. Okay.
But most people wouldn't say that. They would just say was refurbished.
Okay, so yeah, I thought I have written wrong sentence, so that's why I edited it.
Yeah, let's keep that out.
Okay.
You want to talk the way people normally talk and not look for creative, maybe excessively complicated ways to paraphrase the way
Mm-hmm.
ordinary people speak. Yeah, good, it's fine.
Okay.
But
And what? Yeah, and what
you're
about
missing. Mhm.
significant number rise for? I don't know if that's right or wrong.
It's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
What's the simplest possible way to describe what happened?
It's a significant increase in the number of the visitors.
Yeah, there's a significant increase
Increase. Yeah.
in visitors. Done.
Okay.
You haven't included half the information though in your general overview. You haven't mentioned the satisfaction scores.
The pie chart.
Yeah,
Okay.
that absolutely has to be included. Let's see what other
So
people
both
did.
of the thing, the table and pie chart.
Yep.
Okay.
It
So
that you have to include that in the general overview.
Okay, so we have
okay.
Must. Okay, let's see here. Right, because it's in the. Let me just show you something very quickly. Band
Yes.
7 presents a clear overview of the main trends, differences, or stages. So this is mandatory that you give the main trends or differences or stages, and definitely the chart that's half the graph or even more than half the graph must be included. Right, let's see what Dr. Lodi put. Two pie charts illustrate the number of visitors.
So I was splitting 2/3, then I was not sure, so I.
All right, so this is incorrect right away because it's the pie charts don't show you the number of visitors.
The number of satisfied visitors. Yeah.
They don't show that either. They don't show any numbers, right? They just show the percentage of satisfied visitors. The table shows you the number of visitors.
So the number of the visitors who visited. Is it?
The pie charts illustrate the percentage of visitors who were, no, it has to be more general. Okay, hang on, let's see. Can we clearly seen that the number of
It is the number of the visitors, I think. Yeah.
just one sec. Or increased. Passive is not appropriate here. Just, whoops. The number of satisfied visitors increased after the renovation, and the number of unsatisfied visitors also decreased. after the renovation.
How about the first sentence?
Well, the table illustrates the number of visitors before and after its renovation. And the pie charts
Okay.
show visitor satisfaction levels before and after the renovation.
Okay.
Okay, Dina. Okay, excellent, except for this first part. Table illustrates how many tourists to the Royal Ontario Museum in the year before the renovation and the year after. What's the verb? After how many?
Table illustrate how many tourists visited or
Yeah,
went. Yeah, I forget. Yeah.
went to or just visited.
Yeah.
Did you read this out loud?
No.
Okay, you got to read out loud. Your ears should help you catch stuff like
No.
this. Okay, let's see here.
Otherwise, the rest.
Yeah, it's great.
Mm.
The graphs illustrate the number of it. Good, I like this. In this case, it's just spelling. Okay, Allah.
Yes.
The graphs illustrate the number of visitors to the Royal Ontario Museum. You need a different preposition here.
Mm. And the years.
That's it. Five visitor categories. Right. If you're treating visitor like a modifier for categories, we don't pluralize modifiers.
Yeah.
We clearly see that the total number of visitors to the museum increased after the renovation. See, this is not however, right? Because you've got here the percentages of satisfied visitors groups. So again, we got the same problem here, visitor groups, because visitor is modifying groups.
So I cannot say however?
Well, however is a contrast.
So what I can say instead of it?
Okay, I'll give you a minute to think about it.
We can put end, remove it and put it in.
Mm-hmm. The total number of visitors to the museum increased after the renovation, and the percentages of satisfied visitor groups increased. Okay, so we got to clean it up a little bit. See, this is a minor detail. It doesn't belong in the general overview.
Okay.
But let's clean this up.
No, it's very like long sentence. Shall we put additionally in addition?
Well, there's a quicker way to do it. We can get rid of this and put two small words in here. Two small words. The first word has 2 letters, the second word has 3 letters.
After the elimination.
And the first one was as did.
As did the percentages of satisfied visitors. Stop.
1 second. I cannot
this-
understand.
And that we leave.
Yeah,
As
but what,
did,
how about
which means
the dissatisfied people? Like they decreased, we don't mention them?
Well, it's understood, right? If the percentage of satisfied visitors increases, then obviously the percentage of dissatisfied visitors must decrease. It's impossible to have an increase in percentage of one without a decrease in percentage of the second one, because it's a binary category, right? One goes up, the other one has to go down. Right, this is a general overview. You need the big patterns, but you don't need minor details. So this is very concise, and it gives all the necessary information. All right, and we've got one more from Mohammed. Okay, the graph illustrates changes in the number. You have to write everything out in full for this exam. On their satisfaction. So this is a run-on sentence. Mohammed, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Information is good. This is a run-on. This is a complete sentence. Illustrates changes in what? The number of visitors and the impact of the renovation on their satisfaction. Stop. It can be clearly seen that the renovation increased. We have no idea what happened after. We have no idea when this renovation was, so past simple is appropriate.
Okay.
Increase the number of visitors by 25%. Okay. Furthermore, watch out for capitalization. all these words at the beginning of a sentence, however, furthermore, moreover, therefore, plus a comma. When you read it out loud, you can hear these pauses. Furthermore, visitor satisfaction percentages have improved. Okay. Because it's visitor satisfaction, visitor, even though it's a noun, it's functioning here as an adjective because you're talking about visitor satisfaction, not visitors, right? So satisfaction is the main noun. Visitor is functioning like a modifier, like an adjective, and we don't pluralize modifiers.
Okay.
Levels, I would just say levels increased. That's the common way to describe this. While dissatisfaction levels decreased. Okay. If you weren't going to include 25%, what adjective could you use in front of increased? This is fine. We can leave this as is. But instead of putting the 25% here, I would personally put it in the body. So instead of putting 25% here, you could just stick an adjective in front of increased. Dramatically. Increase the number of visitors.
Okay.
Or if we want to put dramatically here, furthermore, visitor satisfaction levels dramatically increased because they did. So what's a synonym for dramatically? We could put significantly. I mean, 25% is a big difference. And what's a synonym for increased? You've got increased here. We could say improved because we're talking about satisfaction levels. Oops. Okay, so these are minor changes. Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay, good. Why don't we take a short break in that case? Because it's 10:30. Or should we spend a few minutes to go over a model of this?
Go over model with this.
All right, let's do that and wrap this up, and then we'll do another one after the break. Okay, what's a good way to begin our body paragraphs?
Satisfied or unsatisfied? Or year before or after?
Yeah, the year before and after. So why don't we start it off that way? In the year before the renovation, tell me what to say.
What about, sorry, what about the table? No need to, like, I know it's like only small data, so shall we put it in one body paragraph or we?
No, I would include it. We're going to go like this. In the year before the renovation, how many people visited the museum?
Oh, okay.
Okay, 1.15 million people visited the museum. And what can we say about how happy they were? Were most people happy or were most people unhappy?
You can say most. It's
Unhappy.
just
Right.
Oh.
Over 50% were unhappy.
Yeah, sorry, over, 55.
And most were unhappy with their visit. Okay. So this is
Including?
okay, what would you like to say next?
Can we say including?
Well, just to lengthen it, I would put a colon here and then break it down. So most were unhappy with their visit. And then let's break that down. So how many reported being dissatisfied? This is the year before the reno. 35% reported being dissatisfied. And how many reported being very dissatisfied?
15.
Very dissatisfied. Now, what about the opposite side?
5%.
Yeah, use a transition. Conversely, 45% were happy with their visit. And here we can use the word comprising to break it down. So how do you break down that 45% category?
Because we need to see the chart.
You,
were very satisfied?
yes, comprising, well, 30%. Comprising 30% who were, oh, are you able to see both on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And satisfied. Right, so again, give the general statement, most were unhappy, and then break it down, 35%, 15%. Conversely, general, 45% were happy, break it down, comprising 30 and 15. Okay, and if we want to include the no response people, how do we say that?
Only the 5% people.
Yeah, so give me a sentence. What should I write?
There were 5% who have not given any response.
Okay, watch out for those there are sentences. They often needlessly complicate your grammar. What if we just start that sentence with 5%? How would you finish it? Very short sentence.
5% of the visitors didn't respond to the questionnaire or
easy. 5% of visitors didn't respond. 5% didn't provide a response. Very short sentence. Okay, and let's do, it makes sense to use a mirror structure. So once the reader has read the first paragraph, roughly speaking, use a mirror construction to describe the information in the second pie chart. So what happened in the year after the renovation? Did the situation improve?
Yes.
Okay, the situation improved dramatically, or we've already said that. Situation showed tremendous improvement. Doesn't Donald Trump love that word tremendous? Oh, it was just tremendous, just tremendous. Right. Situation showed tremendous improvement. Okay. What happened to visitor numbers?
Increased by 3 million? No,
Yeah.
3,000.
Right. We can say an increase of 300,000 visitors or 25%. There's a couple ways we could do it. You could just put visitor numbers increased by 25%, visitor numbers increased by 300,000 visitors or 25%. Okay, or we can include all three numbers.
150.
Okay, so let's talk about let's see, who did we talk about first? We talked about the unhappy people. So what happened to them?
Decreased.
Okay, so what should I write?
The number of people decreased by 50%. Let me check.
Well, that was the percentage, right? Not number.
Yeah.
Don't talk about numbers when it's percentages, because that's not correct. The percentage of dissatisfied visitors. What was the
100%?
Well, first you would want to give the absolute number. So how many in total were dissatisfied?
Dissatisfied, 15% were dissatisfied.
But total dissatisfied.
45. 45.
20%.
Before renovation.
This is the after renovation pie
Okay.
chart. Right, this is our second body paragraph.
20%. Yeah.
Okay, and we want to break that down, so we'll say consisting of
15% dissatisfied and 5% very dissatisfied.
And 5% who were very okay. See, I added this word overall because it says dissatisfied visitors. So I'm distinguishing between dissatisfied visitors, which includes both those categories. So that's why I included overall. And then here I just clarified, consisting of 15% who were dissatisfied and 5% who were very dissatisfied. Okay. And now we want to include the percentage drop, which was a drop of, does anyone remember how much it was? From 55 to 15? Or sorry, what did we say before? We said, we got it all. Dissatisfied was 50 down to 20, right? %60 in overall visitor dissatisfaction. Okay, maybe one more sentence. What does our last part have to be about?
No response. And the same 5% no responses.
No, see, we did the dissatisfied ones, then the happy ones, and then the no response. So we've got,
Happy now.
good. Okay, what should I write about the happy ones?
Overall, more than 75% visitors were satisfied.
Sorry, one more time. It's a little bit unclear.
The overall 75% of the visitors were satisfied.
Okay, I'll put it like this. The overall percentage of satisfied visitors grew to 75%,
75%.
which was an increase of what percentage in visitor satisfaction? Up top. 67%. Okay, one more sentence. Once again,
Once again, 85% were very satisfied and 40% were satisfied.
now we're, well, that's,
Because you are doing
yes.
overall, then you are doing separately.
Okay, so one more sentence for this breakdown.
35% of the visitors were very satisfied, while 40% were satisfied.
Made up of 35% who were very satisfied and 40%, who were and then last part, once again,
The same percentage of the people didn't respond in year after this renovation.
All right, so let's see how it reads. We've got how many words here? Oh, this is a great length, 150 plus the intro paragraph. So this is perfect. In the year before the renovation, 1,150,000 people visited the museum, and most were unhappy with their visit. 35% reported being dissatisfied, and 15% reported being very dissatisfied. Conversely, 45% were happy with their visit, comprising 30% who were satisfied and 15% who were very satisfied. 5% didn't provide a response. In the year after the renovation, the situation showed tremendous improvement. Visitor numbers increased to 1,450,000, an increase of 300,000 visitors, or 25%. Moreover, the percentage of dissatisfied visitors dropped to 20% overall, consisting of 15% who were dissatisfied and 5% who were very dissatisfied, which was a drop of 60% in overall visitor dissatisfaction. The overall percentage of satisfied visitors grew to 75%, which was an increase in 60% in overall visitor satisfaction. I'm going to change this to a positive. Actually, we don't need to. We've got a lot of variety as it is. This was made up of 35% who were very satisfied and 40% who were satisfied. Once again, 5% didn't respond. Okay, any questions, any comments?
So far, so good.
Far so good. Okay, and And while you were working on a general overview, I wrote one too. This is what I came up with. The table provides information about the number of visitors to the Royal Ontario Museum, both before and after its renovation, and the pie charts illustrate poll results showing visitor satisfaction levels during both periods. Generally speaking, it can be clearly seen that both the number of visitors and their satisfaction with the museum rose dramatically. Okay. No numbers, just the general picture. Number of visitors went up, visitors were happier.
So it's good to write like they are happier or they are unhappy because we are explaining the graph in the start of the graph, like the body paragraph. Like if you start our sentence that this percentage of the people are unhappy, is it good to write?
Well, it's just a synonym for satisfied or dissatisfied, happy, unhappy.
You told us that not to conclude anything, so we can use it.
Well, the survey shows you that they were unhappy or happy. That's not my conclusion.
Okay.
I'm just reporting exactly what's in there. There's no opinion.
Okay.
I have not included any personal opinion about the situation. All right, so this is 205. That's the ideal length for getting a good band score. It's generally what it falls into. Okay. Note too that giving these percentage differences allows you to really extend the length. If you don't do that, you're going to have a harder time making comparisons. So this ability to not just talk about the numeric or absolute difference between value A and value B, you should, yes, mention that difference. The number increased from X to Y. But you have to be able to describe the percentage difference. If you were not able to do so, this writing would be much, much shorter. Okay, so this absolutely needs to be in your tool belt of abilities for writing task 1. Okay, and again, the math is pretty simple. Find the difference, divide the first number in your comparison by the difference. All right, if there are no other questions at this point, why don't we take a short break? Okay. Is everyone there?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so let's continue with the next one. We're going to do one more prompt today, and you'll have a choice as to which one you want to do. So the chart below shows what sociology graduates from one university did upon completion of their undergraduate degree. The table shows the salaries of the sociologists at work 5 years after graduation. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So again, we've got 2 parts here. Let's see how much I can blow these up. So our pie chart shows the destination of sociology graduates from one university. So don't say from university, because this is one particular university. We don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. But this has to be reflected in how you describe the information. Okay, and then we've got our salaries at the bottom here. Okay, and these are percentages. Okay, you'll notice that these are percentages and they add up to 100 in every row. Okay, so columns are up and down, rows are across. Okay, so what do you notice?
more than 54, like 50% are those students who are graduated and working as a full-time worker.
Mm-hmm. So the majority, yes, found work full-time.
And 10% is unemployed.
Mm-hmm. Any other meaningful patterns?
For the first pie chart?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's only one pie chart in this one.
Ah, sorry. So this is like two figure?
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's fairly similar to the last one. It's a little bit different, but fairly similar. It's a table
But
and
I
a pie
mean,
chart.
but it is like one task, multiple.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah,
This is
because
one question.
it's like related to each other. So now you want to ask us a pattern for the pie chart?
Yeah, so the pie chart, is there anything meaningful, anything interesting about it?
As she said first, more than 50% is for full time, and for the part time is a triple this 5%. The not five, yeah, this people with part time work, postgraduate,
Mm-hmm.
and unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there is 5% difference, so I'm not sure how to say it. Like, or we can start with this 5% and double for those, this both 10, and then triple for the green one.
Mm-hmm. You could talk about the unemployed as well.
Yeah, unemployed and full-time postgraduate study, they are both 10%, same figure.
Mm-hmm.
We can divide it into three: full-time, part-time, and employed with unknown.
Full-time.
Again, don't spend a lot of time thinking about this unknown category, right?
Yeah, we just put it with unemployed.
We don't know, so that's why I wouldn't talk about it very much. Like one sentence, that's it. Don't provide any analysis of that, because it literally means nothing. We have no idea what it is.
It will help if we divide it as Ala said by paragraph, but I think no, if it is only we put one paragraph for the full-time and one paragraph for the part-time, but
It is there in the table.
No, the pie chart one graph and the table one graph.
yeah, but I mean inside the pie chart paragraph we can divide it also.
Mm-hmm.
But what we will gain from this one, it will be 54 for full-time, and the second full-time.
No, full-time will be 46.
This is an opportunity to use kind of straightforward comparison language. So if you say 54% work full-time or found full-time work, you could say roughly 1/3 as many, 16%, found part-time work. Right? Or you could also start by saying that 70% work.
Full-time.
Or just 70% work,
64,
right?
64.
But hang on, this 5% also includes part-time work. So it's 75% found some kind of work. Right, so you can group these three. it doesn't even make sense to group these too much because you're doing one paragraph and just describing the outcomes of these people. And then the next paragraph is going to go into detail about who they worked for and how much money they made. So again, in the first one, you could start off by saying that 75% found some kind of work. The majority work full-time. Roughly 1/3 as many work part-time, and 5% were both working part-time and doing postgraduate studies.
Postgraduates 10%.
Look at the orange one, part-time work and postgraduate work.
Okay.
All right, so that's where I'm getting the 75. So 54, 16, and 5. This one, this one, this one are all working in one way or another. This one, full-time postgrads, that's 10%. Unemployed is 10%. So you could say an equal number.
Why you are not adding the yellow one, full-time?
Because he's studying.
Full-time possible. Oh.
This one, I'm just pointing out that this one is working. This group is working part-time. This group is also working part-time. There's only one group of full-time students, because these are graduates, right? These are people who already have a degree, and they're doing 10% are doing postgraduate work full-time. So you could say an equal number found postgraduate, an equal number went on to postgraduate studies, 10%, and unemployment. Some people would argue that's the same thing. Sorry, bad joke. Bad joke. Okay. So what can we say about the salaries of the sociology graduates?
In government sector, they are getting more.
Always, right?
Yeah, private sector, they will earn between 25 and 75.
Yeah, they're going to earn a lot less in the private sector. You got to go into government.
Yeah, but why? But for the government, if you are lucky, you can get.
Oh, you got to have a cousin in there, right? That would be funny if the table said, this percentage had cousins working for the government, and as a result, never mind. Okay. More bad jokes, sorry. Still too early in the day. Okay, so what do we say about these freelancers? What's noticeable about the freelancers?
Second highest paid group.
For the highest salary.
For the highest salary.
From 75. Yeah, I know.
Well, freelancers and government were the same for the two lower categories.
Yes.
Right.
And higher for the higher categories.
Mm-hmm. And then what was true of private companies?
Higher for the lower salaries. Between 25 and 75 in two groups.
Yep.
This is kind of a complicated.
You would say something like the highest percentage the highest percentage of high income earners. Okay, so in Ontario, these people would make the Sunshine List. Do you know what that is?
No.
The Sunshine List is a yearly list published by the government of Ontario, that lists all employees making over $100,000.
And here, Mr.
belongs
Yan, the sentence will be present sentence. And for the second, for the table, I think we will use future.
The whole thing should be past tense, because this is a done deal, right? After we don't know when this 5 years is.
Yeah,
We don't know if
so
it's
maybe
this year or
today.
previous.
So this is in the future. Their salary will be.
No. I would
Hmm.
keep the whole thing in past simple. Because it doesn't give a year this year. This is just from one university. We don't know when it is. It's in the past. It clearly says at the top what they did upon completion, not what they do. So I think we have to follow that and keep the whole thing in past simple. Okay, so what's our general pattern going to be? In terms of the pie chart, what's the most general thing you can say about it?
full-time worker, no, like employed and unemployed.
Remember, this is just, we'll just talk about the general overview first. What's the biggest, broadest general pattern of what's going on?
75% of the students are working.
Yes.
Full-time, part-time, or work with study.
Right, so it's a 75% found some kind of work.
Yes.
Right, and what about the table?
This is divided into 3, like employment types: freelance, government, and private sector, and the salaries they are getting from them.
Okay, and what would you say about these groups? What would be a very general truth that we can take from this?
40% of the people end up in government sector, having salaries more than 10,000 plus, 100,000 plus.
I would say government sector, those who found work in the government sector, that category had the highest percentage of high income earners.
Yes.
100 plus.
Yes, and yeah, but I would just call it high income earners in the general overview.
Highest or high?
Generally speaking, there were the highest number of high income earners in the government sector, followed closely by freelance consultants, right? And those who worked in private companies earned the least. By far. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to do the introductory paragraph. Again, don't say below when you paraphrase the prompt. Okay, so you're going to paraphrase the prompt and summarize the things we just talked about. Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes.
Could you please make it visible? The top 2 lines I cannot see. Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, I'll start with Dina. Good. On the amount of salaries. What does that really mean? Hi, Dina, are you there?
Where is it?
The amount of salaries.
It is not clear what's the amount of salary.
Mhm.
How much they earn per year?
Okay, there's a problem at the end too. Additionally, the table gives data on salary distributions. It's
Sorry.
on salary distributions, I would put it. Because it's on the amount of salaries is not very precise. It would have to be something like the percentage of graduates in each salary category after working 5 years. So if you want to be super precise, we can do that. Table gives
After
data.
working 5 years in 3 different sectors.
The percentage.
This one, yeah, of a graduate.
Graduates in for salary. We can say salary brackets. For salary brackets, we can talk about income distributions, income ranges. This is good vocab. Salary brackets. People will often ask on a survey or when doing research, what is your income bracket? It means range. The sectors needs to be here. After working 5 years. Because it sounds like after working 5 years in 3 different sectors, after they've worked in all 3 sectors. Right, so there's some ambiguity there. We're going to move. So this would be called a misplaced modifier. Salary distributions in 3 different sectors after working 5 years. Overall, it can be clearly seen that around 3/4 of graduates worked either full or part-time, and employees in the government sector.
Sectors.
Not sectors, because it's just one. Had the highest amount of earnings, but they didn't. Sorry, yes, they did. Had the highest earnings. It's not 100% precise, because do we know
if there is any higher than him?
You have to be a little bit more precise in how you describe this. So basically what's going on here is 40% of government sector employees earned the highest salary range, or 40% of government sector employees were in the highest income bracket. Let me write that down, because with statistics, the devil really is in the details. 40% of government employees were
We don't know, this is percent or number?
It's percent. They all add up to 100. The percentage signs should be there. Every one of those rows adds up to 100. We're in the highest income bracket.
So 40%, yeah.
While most private sector employees were in the lowest income brackets. Or we can say the largest percentage. Now, I'm not saying the majority, because it's not over 50%. I'm saying the largest percentage. The technical term for that is plurality. That's not a term we use very often. Plurality just means the largest percentage. Well, most private sector employees were in the lowest income brackets. Okay. Bracket. Followed by freelancers. We can't neglect that. Okay, good. What do you call people who major in sociology? Allah.
Sociologist.
That's it. It's got to be sociologists here, right? Sociologists. Are working. Let's say we're working.
Okay.
And this isn't on the other hand because it's not a contrast. You could say moreover. You could even say nothing here. The highest incomes, but if you want to be super clear, just put moreover. The highest incomes were paid to freelance consultants in government sector. See, you pay to people, right? So freelance consultants is right, but then government sector is not people anymore. So you need one more word here.
Psychologist, a sociologist.
Okay, or just employees.
Okay.
Workers after 5 years of working. After 5 years of working. Okay, this word graduate, old-fashioned English, it's used passively. You would say that someone was graduated by or from a university, but that's an old-fashioned usage and almost nobody uses it anymore. Occasionally, someone does, but it's rare. So we now treat this actively, like she graduated from university. So because of that, this participle needs to be the active participle. So it should be remember we briefly talked about this earlier. If you have who graduated, what's the participle version of that?
Graduating.
Yep. Graduating from one university and their destination after 5 years of graduation. This numbers, as a general rule, if they're one syllable, write them out. Okay, so from 1 to 10, just spell it out. Watch out for the weird spacing with punctuation. All right, I see this throughout. When they see something like this, they're going to really wonder about you because you've got weird punctuation spacing all over the place.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm trying to.
This is a habit because look how consistent it is. Same thing here. If I can be clearly seen.
Mr. Yan, a question, please. This who graduated, when we transfer to graduating, there is no difference if this clause defining or not defining. We can do it in both types.
It's going to be different situations. If you can give me a couple examples, then we can talk about those. But we've only got about 5 minutes left. So if you want to put that in the Q&A, then I can give you a detailed answer as long as you can give me a couple examples of what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Generally, we've seen that more than two-thirds. Be careful. 2/3 of students after five of graduation. 5 years after graduation.
5 years of graduation.
After 5 years after graduation.
Yeah.
Not after 5 of graduation or after 5 years of
Yes.
graduation, 5 years after graduation, found some kind of job, comma, while roughly less than 1/3. If you say 1/3, then don't put percentage because it's the same thing. It's redundant. Remained unemployed or, not and, or past tense, ended up studying as postgraduate students. The highest percentage of high income earners was seen. It's not earners were seen, it's percentage was seen, right? Same kind of thing we saw at the beginning of class. In the government sector, followed by freelance. Be careful in terms of switching between the sector and the people. This often happens when people go back and forth between the name of the job and the name of the professional. So if you're going to talk about government sector, then it's not freelance consultant, but freelance consulting.
Okay.
Right? Or you'd have to say government sector employees followed by freelance consultants. While private companies contributed the less percentage, that's no good. While those who found work in private companies earned the least. The highest percentage of high income earners was seen in the government sector, followed by freelance consulting, while those in private companies earned the least.
The least.
Okay, and I wrote this one just right now. Let me quickly go through it with you. Let's see if there's any mistakes. Let me blow it up a little bit. How long is this one? It's 285, so it's too long, but this is what I wrote in the time that you were writing your general overview. The pie chart illustrates what happened to sociology graduates from one particular university upon graduation. Oops. While the table presents information about their salaries 5 years after they graduated. Generally speaking, it can be clearly seen that 75% of graduates found some kind of work. Those who found work in the government sector saw the highest earnings, closely followed by those who went into freelance consulting. Semicolon, those who worked for private firms earned the least. The majority of sociology graduates at this university, 54% I put in brackets, found full-time employment following graduation. About a third as many, again I put in brackets, found part-time employment, while 5% both worked part-time and did postgraduate studies. The same percentage, 10%, either continued with full-time postgraduate studies or ended up unemployed. It is unknown what happened to 5%. Following graduation, sociology graduates went into the government sector, freelance consulting, or the private sector. So we've got a general introductory sentence. The largest percentage of government workers, 40%, earned the highest salaries, $100,000 and up. 35% of freelancers were also in the top income bracket, but only 15% of private sector employees earned top incomes. An equal number of freelancers, also 35%, fell into the second highest income bracket of $75,000 to just under $100,000. So instead of saying 99999, I'm saying just under 100,000. as did 30% of government workers and 20% of private sector workers. In terms of the $50,000 to just under $75,000 income category, 45% of those working for private firms received a salary in this range, as did 20% of those in the other two groups. So I'm lumping them together. Finally, with respect to the lowest salary bracket of $25,000 to just under $49,000, 20% of private sector employees received a salary in this range, as did 10% of those in the other two groups. And that's it. I'll post the outline versions as well a little later today, but you've got the full versions right here. And if you want to start writing, as we did in the previous classes, you can also transform these into the point form version. So ideally, your process is to write out these models by hand. Pencil and paper, pen and paper, write it out by hand, read it out loud as you're retyping it. Say it out loud a lot of times so that the rhythm of these sentence constructions starts to sort of get ingrained in your head. So that's the first time, just copy by hand. Second round, make an outline. It's called a reverse outline based on these models. And then write your own version based on the outline and compare to the model. Decide which parts are better, which parts are worse. And then finally, the third version, put everything away, write it from memory, just look at the graph as you would on the examination and post your writing for me to check in the forum. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Okay, remember, if you have any additional questions, please post them in the Q&A forum and I'll reply to you very quickly.
Okay.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.